How do? My name is Andrew Hancock and I am a VMware technical architect from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I have worked with VMware since their birth in 1998, so that's been a quarter of a century now. I've been working with the VMware product catalogue. Some of my close friends say if you cut Andy in half, it reads VMware like a stick of rock from Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I have now written over 130 articles and recorded over 30 hours of VMware vSphere 7 and 8 videos for Experts Exchange, and received 40 Expert Exchange awards over the last 11 years working with the Expert Exchange community. I am currently the overall #1 point earner in the Hall of Fame. I am honoured to have been accepted into the VMware vExpert program since 2011, and I'm currently a VMware vExpert Pro for the last 4 years. So welcome back to another Hancock's VMware half hour. And this video today might be about 30 minutes. And what I'm going to show you today is how we enable vCenter HA. vCenter high availability. A couple of questions came up on Experts Exchange, and I think the basis or the basics of the message that I was actually getting from what was posted was that management in some organizations were asking that everything was resilient within the VMware vSphere environment. And this possibly maybe comes to some misunderstanding about what vCenter Server is and what it does. vCenter Server really is a management server that allows you to manage your ESX hosts through a single pane of glass. If vCenter Server should explode, blow up, be unavailable, it's not going to impact the virtual machines that are running on the hosts. However, whilst vCenter Server is down, it won't allow you to reconfigure DRS, HA, VDS, vSAN. Your virtual machines are still going to run quite happily. vCenter Server just provides a mechanism to provide configuration of vSAN, HA, DRS, and VDS. The actual management side or the interface side or the data side of those functions are still going to carry on running with vCenter Server being unavailable. However, of course, if vCenter Server is unavailable, you would have to go to the individual host to manage. And of course, if you were reliant upon vCenter Server in an SRM capability, or even in, for instance, using a third-party backup utility like Veeam Backup and Replication, and you're using the endpoint as vCenter Server to do your backups and restores, obviously, if vCenter Server is unavailable, you'll not be able to do that functionality. So VMware has actually basically come up with functions built into vCenter Server 7 that allows you to basically create a HA mode available to it, similar to Microsoft failover clustering, that has an active, passive, and a witness node, allows you to create a highly available version of vCenter Server. However, of course, if you have vCenter Server as a virtual, which you will do now if you're using VCHA 7, in the event that one of your hosts falls over due to a hardware failure or a host crash, if you've got VMware vCenter Server and you've got HA available and enabled, then vCenter Server would automatically restart anyway on one of the other available hosts. So without further ado, let's get on and I'll show you how we actually configure vCenter Server HA. So the first thing we do is we highlight the vCenter Server object in our hierarchy, which is right at the top here, the root vCenter Server 7. And if we select Configure and we select vCenter HA, then we can actually basically start the setup vCenter HA. Now, this is why prerequisite to this was actually basically setting up a vCenter HA distributed port group on our VDS as one of the prerequisites for this. as you can see, this little diagram here, vCenter HA network, which is shared by our active vCenter server, our passive, and also our witness as well. And these are very, very similar to what was often described as the cluster heartbeat network, which is completely isolated in Microsoft failover clustering. So I'm going to click Set up vCenter HA, and this is all done by connecting to vCenter server. So it's going to ask me for a vCenter HA network for the active node. So I'm going to select my vCenter HA VDS01.vSAN, my distributed port group that I created on VLAN 2033. So just looking at our current active node, that's using VM network for its management. This is what I'm connected to at the moment, our 192.168.182 network. Its HA network is going to be the one I've created, vCenter HA-VDS01.vSAN. So I'm going to do exactly the same with our passive. So I'm going to select, I'm going to click Edit, and I'm going to basically, I'm quite happy with that name. So I'm going to click Next. So I'm actually going to select that data center. I'm going to specify and put this on 007. Now, it actually makes sense to have these three active, passive, and witness nodes on three separate hosts, and really three separate data stores. But I'm going to select our vSAN data store. The management network is our VM network. And our vCenter HA network is that distribution group that I created previously, followed by Next. And I'm just having a kind of quick glance over, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to click Finish, and I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing. I'm going to basically create, happy with the name, and I'm going to actually select 9 because I know that ESXi 011 is where our vCenter server is currently hosted. And I'm going to click Next, and I'm going to click the vSAN data store, and our HA network for this one again is that network as well, followed by Next. Excuse me, followed by Finish. So I'm happy now with our VM networks are the same, our HA networks are all the same, and I'm happy with our data store. So I'm now going to click Next, which actually is going to start asking me to put some IP addresses in. So I'm going to use the, I'm actually going to not use the IP address range, which is currently defined for our VLAN on 233. I'm just going to make up an IP address range here, 168.1.1. And I'm going to do exactly the same 1.2. And I'm going to do same address range 1.3. And I'm going to click Finish. Now, vCenter server, current vCenter server, is going to start making some modifications to VMware vCenter Server 7.8. It's going to add another network interface. It's going to clone the existing VMware vCenter server, and it's going to make the changes to the network interfaces, and the same with the witness center, and deploy them all, and hopefully come back later and we can basically have a little look at the configuration information, and we can initiate failovers, etc. So you can see the information that we specified. Our active one is currently up, which is 1.1, and our passive is 1.2, and our witness is 1.3. And all we've got to do now is sit back and wait. So I'm going to disappear. I'm going to get a drink, and I'll be back shortly. Well, I'm back, and well, that was a wild ride. Oh well, where do I start with that? Oh, okay. vCenter HA got its knickers really in a bit of a twist, and that initial failover that I did didn't actually succeed. And in having a little look at what's actually basically gone on, I actually allocate a static IP address via DHCP reserved in the lab. It's not statically defined on vCenter 7. That's the first mistake, because when vCenter server or vCenter HA failed over the active node to the passive node, when the passive node came up, it has a different MAC address, and it then assumed a different IP address. The other interesting thing I've actually noticed is it looks as if it's the first time I've noticed this, that the vCenter H or vCenter server possibly uses client reference for DHCP, not MAC address. So therefore, that just created several references with different IP addresses every time against a DHCP server. And we ended up really in a complete mess. And it's taken me the last 3 or 4 hours debugging, resetting, destroying, resetting back to active, and I've now got back into vCenter server. But I do have a vCenter server issue currently, in that for some strange reason it's not actually saving the IP addresses as defined, 192.168.182.136, and it's not bringing up ETH0. So I've got to go in old school and use ifconfig to bring up ETH0 and to manually basically add all the IP addresses. So there's something still wrong there, but I just wanted to kind of quickly show you when I did get it all sort of kind of back up and running to the point where I could actually get back into vCenter server, because I did think that I was going to have to go back to deploying a new vCenter server, and then I was going to have to fall back on those backups that I spoke about in restoring the backups and restoring the VDS configuration, because of course this now is running vSAN, this is now running VDS. So we get ourselves into a bigger mess when vCenter server is not available or we've redeployed. And I didn't really want to go down that route. And then oddly, something else I noticed today, and this could have been due to, as I said, we did have a massive power outage overnight. I know what you say. You can say, oh, why have you got UPS? Well, we have got UPSs here. We've also got full generators. But for some strange reason, the UPSs all kicked in. They all did their job, but they're not designed to last the brownouts. The generator actually basically kicked in, flicked over, and then basically blew a fuse. So basically the whole house went off, including this lab. And oddly, the result of that was as well, mysteriously, my VMware vCenter server backup that was a clone that I created to vSAN, gone, vanished. Don't ask me. So again, it's all on swimming we will in the lab. So really what I want to show you now, back to where we sort of kind of started when I hit initiate failover. I'm hoping this time that when we initiate failover, that everything is going to work as it should. Fingers crossed. And I wanted to show you that piece, that snapshot there, where vCenter HA wasn't healthy and it was moaning about basically the passive not communicating, Postgres not replicating. And I basically just deleted the old passive node and I redeployed and it's fixed itself. They've all come up, replications basically started and we're all back to normal and we've got no warnings. So let's hit that button again and initiate failover and see what happens this time. I'm definitely going to post this video back to, as I said, there was an experts exchange question that came on this. And basically, I think that the administrator was being pressured by management because they wanted everything HA. And he was asking a question about whether or not that he should enable vCenter HA. And as I kind of said, really depends on how big your environment is and how complicated your environment is today. You know, if you've got NSX, if you've got SRM, if you've got vSAN, if you've got VDS, and you've not got vCenter HA, then you're going to get yourself into a long recovery process if you've not got HA involved. However, of course, if HA goes wrong, then you're still in a mess. So, I don't know, belts and braces. I'm a big fan, to be honest with you, really, of using third-party backup tools to back up vCenter server, make regular backups using the VMware interface, as I've shown you, and also basically backing up your configuration of your VDS as well, should the event arise that it all goes wrong and it's going to spend you a few hours. However, of course, if if you've got support and subscription, then just bung it at those guys at VMware support and get it escalated, and they'll get you back up and running. Okay, but we live and we learn, and this is what building labs is all about. That we tear them down, we build them up, and we fix them. Okay, so without further ado, enough waffle. I'm going to put all this together. I'm now going to initiate failover. A failover will promote the passive node to active, while a failover is vCenter server, vSphere client, and other services will be unavailable for several minutes. I don't want to force a failover to start immediately, so I'm going to click initiate failover, and it's going to be approximately 10 minutes before it comes back, or we can basically log back into vCenter server again. So beware of that. This certainly isn't as fast as failover clustering with Microsoft. Microsoft failover clustering, you do Microsoft failover clustering, and you're failed over depending upon how many disk groups, etc., that you've actually got and cluster resources. But certainly in less than a minute, I've seen Microsoft failover clustering fail over. I'm expecting this to take 10 minutes by the time that it started up all those services again. But the passive node here, which is going to become the active node, is actually basically sitting on our Intel Optane vSAN. And as you may have noticed in the deployment, when I'm deploying virtual machines to the Intel Optane vSAN, it is very, very quick, which I would expect. Okay, so without further ado, I'm not too sure whether or not that you can hear that beep in the background. And I've just actually noticed as well that noise cancelling is off, so this is going to sound awful. But maybe I'll just leave it in anyway, and you can hear the general noise here that's in the background. If I just shut up, yeah, that's a UPS that's complaining as well. Right, okay, initiate failover. Okay, I was expecting something. I've just turned on the noise cancellation. If you just wonder why all of a sudden it's gone incredibly quiet, or it's changed. I was expecting to see something, but anyway, I'll disappear. I need to go and get a drink. Okay, I've just noticed here that we've started to get a little refresh symbol here. And there's request timeout there from our 192.168.182.136. So something's happening. Anyway, so I will come back shortly. Okay, and I'm back. I don't think that actually was 10 minutes. I should have timed it. I've got enough gadgets around here that I could have actually put a stopwatch on and actually timed that. Excuse me. Okay, so what are we looking at? If we look carefully now, we can see that the active node, which is up, is 192.168.1.2, not 1.1, which is our active node before. And our IP address is 192.168.182.136, and down here it can be pinged. I haven't looked into the engine of what vCenter HA does. I'm probably going to go off and have a little look, find out if I can get some documentation and see what's actually happening. But from what I can see by observation, is it looks like to me that some configuration changes are actually made to the active node, and the ETH0 interface is turned off. And I think what actually basically happens is that the machine's actually shut down. So ETH0 is either downed or it's downed and it's shut down, restarted. And the passive node, ETH0, is brought up as 192.168.182.136 and started up. So the process of vCenter HA is actually shutting down and restarting vCenter server appliances. And as we know, vCenter server appliances, can take 10, 20, or even 30 minutes to actually basically restart and initialize all the services. So that's really it. Do I like vCenter HA? It's a function and it's free. Try it out. It's management's on your back because they want vCenter HA. Then press that button, get it installed, demonstrate the failover to them, see whether or not that's really a tick in the box for you. There is one client that we have that actually uses vCenter server in a cloud type environment that has many users that actually basically use it, not for administration, but they actually use the consoles accessing virtual machines that they've been given read access to. And there are quite a number of users that actually use the vCenter server web browser to access their virtual machines during the day. And one of the big issues that they actually have is patching. If they actually basically need to patch the vCenter server, they find it very difficult when they can fit that in 24/7 to do that patching when they've got users that are using those virtual machines at different times of the day. This potentially might be something that they can actually use, so they can actually patch the passive node and then fail them over. But again, you've got that window. This isn't seamless. This is even HA, vSphere HA, even vSphere HA is faster to start up a virtual machine on a crashed host than what vCenter HA is doing. Anyway, so that's all I wanted to show you in this particular video. It has gone on long enough. In between me actually basically defrosting my freezer this afternoon as well. So I lead an exciting life here in Yorkshire in the United Kingdom, defrosting freezers and back in the lab fixing vCenter server and fixing HA. So all best. Thanks so much for watching these videos, and come back soon for another episode. Thanks so much now. Goodbye.